Perfect. Salute, and welcome. Welcome back to the Black Ocean. Now swimming in the deep end with your host, the one and only Great Black Shark. And yes, family, oh yes, I told you I was going to be following up and doing a broadcast on exactly why some of these people, like this demon here on your screen, okay, both of them are devils in my opinion, because I've already went into detail about that during the previous broadcast. If you missed that, it's on the channel for you to catch up on. Oh, I made some people mad with that one, but let me go ahead and let y'all know something now. For those of you that are pissed off with that, you're going to be extra mad tonight. Because see, family, what I'm going to show you tonight is I'm going to show you exactly where some of this degeneracy comes from, why a lot of these people like Sean Combs or Puff Daddy, whoever you want to name, because he's not the only one. I'm going to show you where they get idolizing that from. I'm going to show you who they're looking up to, okay? Because see, what a lot of people don't understand, particularly about the music industry, when it comes to, okay, hip hop or whatever, y'all really don't understand a lot of stuff that went on well before we got to this era now. And we're going to do a deep dive on that tonight here. It's going to make a lot of sense. It's a lot of dots are going to be connected for you all. For the normal people that were wondering, like, why in the hell would anybody do what she alleged that he did, which I do believe some of that is true. Some of it may have been embellished, but it's been too much going around for too long, but none of it to be true, okay? So we going to get deep into this tonight. See, let me go ahead and point something else out to a lot of you all here tonight, too. Be mindful of any black person that you see when they get to a certain level. And every time you turn around, they giving so much praise to a whole bunch of white folks. I'm talking about they skinning and grinning with them every chance you see them. And notice that you'll start to see them spend less and less time around people that look like them. Let me tell you something. Over the years, every time I've witnessed that, I don't care whether it's an athlete, entertainer, actor, whatever the case may be. It's one thing if you got to do business with people. But when it gets to the point where you never really see them with their folks, with people that look like them, that's similar to a boat that you have tied up to a dock. And then if you untie that boat, it just starts drifting way out to sea, out with the tide, okay? Oh, what I'm saying here is going to make sense. So with that said, I'm just letting you know that if you was pissed off during the last broadcast, you're going to be even more so today. So with that said, let me go ahead and scroll up and greet my esteemed guests here. I see the good brother Dairo in the house. I see Willis Martin in here. I see Patricia Slade, the sister Studs in the building. The good moderator Patricia Jenkins. I see you in here. Chief X Ali. I see you, my good brother up there in Oklahoma. Project Leroy in the building. I see Mrs. L. The good brother Native Jeff Smith in the building. Erica Bailey. Let's see. Salute to you and everyone that'll be joining us here in attendance tonight. Oh yeah, family. And salute to let's see, people hitting the cash up already. Salute to the good brother Daryl Bledsoe. Thank you very much for that. My brother is much appreciated. Yeah. So now that everybody understands what the gist of the broadcast is going to be tonight, some of this is going to shock you. I'm going to give you the warning in advance. It's going to be quite disgusting. And you're going to see where this degeneracy comes from. Because, see, let's be clear. I don't care whether it's politicians, entertainers, and this really extends beyond just here in America dealing with Black America. It's also going to apply to a lot of the continental African crooked, corrupt leaders that you see. See, let me tell you something. When you start to see people and they get themselves in things like peditly or whatever you want to call this bastard, just know that that doesn't come from us. See, our people, for the most part, we don't believe in like normalizing that kind of degeneracy, okay? I'm not saying that we don't have some sickos amongst us. You got good and bad in every community. But this type of extreme crap, they're looking to people in the dominant society that have gotten away with that they idolize. And we're going to cover some of that here tonight, okay? So, like I said over here, you know how we do it. We turn the sacred cows into hamburgers. We're going to serve them up with this true sauce. And like I said, if you were pissed off during the last broadcast, oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. So with that said, family, we're going to go ahead and get into it. And let me say this, too, before we start here tonight. During this time of year, okay, the holiday season, okay, I hope everybody's enjoying your time with your loved ones and your family members. But I want to take this time to make sure that I remind you all to be safe out here, okay? Unfortunately, during this time of year, this is the season where all the drunk drivers like to get on the road, okay? They get liquored up and get behind the wheel of a car. They hit the bottle, be like, look. The best thing for me to do now is to get behind the wheel of a car and go drive. You know, I mean, I'm making jokes, but I'm saying that's how they are, family. So please, hopefully, you've gotten where you're going earlier in the earlier parts of the day, even though that's not going to stop them either. But by the time it gets late, you need to be stationary with your loved ones. Okay, so just use your common sense out here because unfortunately, it's not that common anymore. Okay. So just want to take that time to say that to my audience out here tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And there's going to be a lot to learn here. Like I said, they thought the last broadcast made them mad. They ain't going to like this one tonight.
The life of a groupie might sound super exciting and romantic. It often was, but there was a definite dark side to groupiedom. So what's the real truth? It's complicated. Understanding the 70s era groupie begins by coming to terms with an uncomfortable fact. Age didn't matter, to the point where some were known as baby groupies. When she sat down to talk to Thrillist, groupie mainstay Lori Maddox described being in junior high when a friend introduced her to Sable Starr, who was already popular on the groupie scene by the time she was 14 years old. Maddox remembered, "She was so glamorous, one of a kind, wearing scarves for shirts and going topless without hesitation. I had not yet turned 15 and David Bowie wanted to take me to his hotel room. She says she wasn't ready then, but 5 months later, Starr and her sister were both involved with Iggy Pop, yet lusting after Bowie. And this time, Maddox says that when Bowie requested her presence at dinner and afterward in his bedroom, she agreed.
David drops the kimono off and says, "Can you wash my back?"
As for Starr, by 14, she was a stable at the Whiskey A Go-Go and a favorite of Jimmy Page. When Thrillist talked to Lori Maddox about being a sexually active groupie when she was still a young teen, she stressed that she didn't see anything wrong with it, saying, "I was an innocent girl, but the way it happened was so beautiful. Who wouldn't want to lose their virginity to David Bowie?" Fellow groupie Pamela Des Barres said similar things in an interview with The Guardian, saying that she was proud of Maddox for the way she handled all the negativity and explaining, "Yeah, she was young, but it was our reality and everyone was okay with it." Des Barres, too, says she has no regrets and even considers herself a pioneering feminist.
I took my...
Oh, yeah. So let me go ahead and pause it right there. Now you see what we're going to do this deep dive here to show you where some of this degeneracy comes from. Because, again, this is the dominant society. And we all know a lot of the pedos, like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call his name, the so-called king, Elvis Aaron Presley. Yeah, I see, look, I could name so many of them, man. Look, let's be clear. Let's not mince any words. This is what they're describing here. Everybody that was dealing with them young girls, you was a bunch of pedophiles. I'm just going to come on out and call it what it is. That's what you were. And what you're going to see here later as they start talking, I want y'all to pay attention to this because, see, after you see this here tonight, start looking at the behavior of some of these people with all these different allegations and accusations against them. Start looking at how they move. when they be saying questionable things. See, that's another thing we got to get a hold to in our community if we want to protect our community, okay? Because a lot of stuff, people just let it slide like, oh, that's just so and so. You take it as a joke. No. See, these degenerates right here, man, they are too far gone to save, okay? For me, I look at them as a threat when they start idolizing the people that we're going to be reviewing in this broadcast tonight. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there. And let me go ahead and put this on your minds now, family. I'm going to piss off even further the people that defend the degenerates, because if you think that what you heard before this broadcast and after this one is over tonight, it's going to have you upset if you're one of the people that like to defend them, oh, just wait. Because I'm finna go in on the Turbo Thought so-called rappers. I'm going to get Slow Rilla, a.k.a. Glorilla. I'm going to put on the chopping block too. Suki Hana or Pukey Hana, whatever you want to call her. Okay, I'm gonna get them all. Okay, and Ugly Red, yeah, that's right. I said Ugly Red. Ain't nothing sexy about that, because see, they have been weaponized by corporate America to destroy the future of our society. Oh, just wait. I'm gonna have that broadcast coming probably Thursday. Okay, just be on the lookout for it. But we're gonna get back into what we got to cover here tonight, because like I said, if you're the type of person that has wondered why they do some of the things they do, it's gonna all make sense, because some of these names, if you pay attention, a lot of these people that have these allegations against them, they've mentioned some of these names. You probably heard them talking about how much they admire these people. I'm just showing you where the degeneracy comes from. Let's get back to it.
Birth control pill out of my purse and took it in front of people on the Sunset Strip, which is feminism.
Others strongly disagree. Dr. Rosemary Lucy Hill of the Center for Interdisciplinary Gender Studies at the University of Leeds told The Guardian that even if young women went into the world of the groupie with the mentality that all sex was consensual, the power imbalance makes it difficult. She explains, "Some people think it's never a free choice because of all the expectations. I think both of these things are true at the same time, and that makes it really complicated." Between groupies and the rock stars they followed back in the 70s, perceptions likely differed. Speaking with Thrillist about Jimmy Page, Maddox said, "He mesmerized me. I fell in love instantly. At that point, I was 15 and totally in love with this man. I put him on a pedestal." On the other hand, Page told journalist Ellen Sander, "Everybody knows what they come for, and when they get there, they act so special. I haven't got time to deal with it." Page was far from the only one to think less than highly of groupies.
It's kind of like being at a buffet where everything is laid out, and you don't have to take this or this or this, but it's all there to be eaten if you want it.
Even 70s-era boy band the Bay City Rollers look back on their groupies with a sort of shrug and a laugh. In a 2015 conversation with the Irish Mirror, Les McEwen shared that he'd found his decades-past relationships with groupies ultimately unfulfilling, saying, "You realize that all that stuff is a bit shallow compared to the depth of the relationship you have with your wife." He joked that they'd had girls lined up in every city. According to bandmate Stuart Wood, "One in every port," that was the expression. Groupie Cherry Vanilla insists she never felt forced to do anything, but not all 1970s-era groupies had the same experience. Morgana Welch was one of the underage LA-based groupies known as the LA Queens. In Legs McNeil and Gillian McCain's punk oral history, Please Kill Me, Welch talks about how incredible she found the music scene at the time, but admitted that the musicians were surrounded by unknown hangers-on who were looking for the same perks provided to the rich and famous. Welch said, "A lot of girls buddied up. In a way, it felt a little safer because you had somebody. You didn't always want to go alone." But that didn't always work. Welch and her friend Tyler were kidnapped, arrested as sex workers, drugged, and sexually assaulted. Groupie Bebe Buell famously became the mother of Steven Tyler's daughter Liv. According to her memoir Rebel Heart, she was pregnant and torn between Tyler and her old flame Todd Rundgren when Tyler's behavior became so erratic that it terrified her. She saw him have a massive seizure, recover the following morning, and use cocaine again that evening, recalling, "I'm really scared. I whispered to Todd over the phone, 'Help me get out of here. I have to get away from this guy.'"
Now let's pause it right there, okay? Because see, notice you're going to hear a recurring theme over here in this broadcast tonight. Notice how they keep bringing up all these drugs that all these celebrities are using, okay, that they're going to be talking about. Okay, now today, fast forward, when you look at, okay, hip-hop culture in general, or the music rather, the music went from, you know, guys talking about what they saw coming up in their neighborhood as far as seeing people sell drugs. Now, if you look at where it's transitioned, you got people rapping about using the drugs. So now let's stay on that point for a minute, because see, one thing that has always remained true when it comes to our people, or any of them, but we dealing with our community, right? Even though we're looking at where these influences come from with a lot of these people that like to imitate that behavior, okay? When they signed black people to record deals back in the day, one of the first things they wanted to try to get them hooked on was some alcohol or some drugs, okay? See, let me tell you something right now. For those of you that do partake in those things, I don't, okay? But if you're going to do business, you always come ready to do business in a sober frame of mind. Don't ever handle your business without being in a clear frame of mind, all right? That's always a bad idea. But see, when they put that before black people, before they signed those regular contracts, they were trying to gauge what your vices were, okay? And they would always have somebody around them trying to make sure they keep a steady diet or whatever that vice was, whether it was drugs, alcohol. Okay, you got to have your white women. Okay, look, we know the joke. Hey, a Cadillac white woman and some cocaine, okay? And that, unfortunately, that worked for a lot of our greats who put out some absolutely fantastic, timeless music. But then when you start to analyze their lives, you be like, oh, wow. And see, I guarantee you, if you do a little bit of research on the history of some of these people, you start to find out like, damn, man, somebody out there in the dominant society introduced them to the stuff that they got hooked on, okay? So I'm just threading the needle on that, where all this drug uses come from. And see, here's the other thing. You got to look at how the pecking order is set up in these types of industries. They're always looking at it like this, okay? The people that are the CEOs that are in charge, that are making the most money, even with the white people, they look at them like, yeah, okay, you got to earn this. Remember what I told you during the previous broadcast about people of a certain amount of wealth? They look at everybody else as puppets on a string that they make dance to get a paycheck, okay? So when the abuse flows downhill, so to speak. So what these guys do, like these so-called rock stars or whatever, they're like, okay, I can't abuse this person that has more power than me, but I can abuse these groupies. And this is where the little naive, dumb heifers come along, 14, 15, 16. First of all, where are your parents at? Because there's no way in hell you got a 14 or 15-year-old away from the house, long periods of time, going from state to state. I mean, at that point, I got to start looking at the parents like, okay, are you in on it? You must know, because a minor, why would you not report that child missing? Come on now. See, we like to use our common sense over here. So I'm pointing out where these influences come from the Puff Daddies, okay? Because like I said, if you pay attention to what they're going to be talking about here tonight, you're going to hear some names that a lot of them have said they looked up to, okay? So now, in regards to the younger sisters, I'm trying to do this broadcast to show you exactly where these influences came from and a lot of the things that you don't understand that you're walking into. To see, you have this image, speaking primarily to the young women, okay? You have this image of what you think that celebrity is based on what you see on TV. Then when you get behind closed doors, you don't know what type of drug addict you're dealing with, okay? You don't know what this person is into. Then you get yourself in a situation like Nasty Cassie, because I'm going to call her what she is. You went on with that for 10 years. You was not going, that went against your will for the most of that time. It couldn't have been. But you get yourself in a situation like that, and now you don't know what to do. And see, look, let me tell you something right now. Before we get back into this, I don't know if a lot of you have heard this yet, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to find a way to try to cover some of that. I might have to do it on Patreon, but apparently Suge Knight has a podcast that he's got going from prison, okay? Now, it's one of the little rotten white dude that started the Source magazine is the one that's in on it with him. Oh, that's a whole nother conversation, but one of the things I will say about characters like Suge Knight, as villainous as they may be, you got certain types of villains that are very honest when they talk about certain things. Man, the stuff that he was saying that Akon was allegedly involved in and what he did, oh man, look, yeah, I might have to dive into that. See, I'm just bringing it up to let a lot of these young starstruck girls in our community know that what you think they're not like that. Behind closed doors, you really don't want to be in no groupie situation, and a lot of them have found out the hard way. Okay, so that's why I'm conducting this here tonight. But we're gonna get back into it, and we're gonna finish analyzing things as they come up.
It makes sense that some of the most devoted groupies of the 1970s were artists themselves, and perhaps the most famous was Cynthia Plaster-Caster Albritton. Her decades-long career of creating plaster casts of rock star genitalia started with an art class assignment, and continued with the realization that not only did having a gimmick get her noticed, but it got her interacting with the scene's biggest stars in a completely different way.
My art teacher told me to make a plaster cast as my homework assignment of something that could retain its shape.
That gimmick earned her Frank Zappa's patronage, but not participation. While she initially relied on the help of other groupies to prepare stars to have casts taken, she eventually moved along to enlisting the help of significant others. Albritton says that the interaction that came with the project was a unique insight into the perception of the groupie. She admitted, "I was just doing it to get laid because I was goofy." While Albritton says her work was largely positive, she saw the dark side of being a groupie too. Describing her encounter with Led Zeppelin, she said, "It was a horrible experience. They had a condescending attitude to some of the girls, coupled with a violent streak. Most bands have been humble, feet on the ground, and not blatant megalomaniacs." While fans see only the image rock stars project, groupies see way more, for better or worse. Gail Sloatman Zappa was a 1960s groupie turned 1970s rock star wife. When she was interviewed by fellow groupie Pamela Des Barres for her book Let's Spend the Night Together, Zappa spoke about what she called the groupie state of mind, in which girls were in it for the lifestyle. She explained, "They took groupiedom to a whole other level that you might call professional. Groupies who just got lucky, girls servicing the band. Then there were the desperate ones servicing the crew or anyone near the band, cousins, road managers, whatever." But Gail Zappa felt something else. She'd always felt like an outsider until a party for the up-and-coming Rolling Stones introduced her to an entirely different scene than what she'd grown up with. She said that it was the idea of being understood, breaking free of constraints, and making her own way in the world that really attracted her to the life of a groupie. In her autobiography, Take Another Little Piece of My Heart, Pamela Des Barres wrote about the discovery that it wasn't always about sex. She recalled Mick Jagger inviting her back to the hotel after the ill-fated concert at Altamont. She hadn't realized that he wanted to talk about the concert and his thoughts of walking away from music.
Who's fighting and what for? Why are we fighting?
Des Barres also wrote of her experiences with Keith Moon, who was haunted by a January 1970 accident in which he hit and killed his driver in escaping from angry pubgoers. She later told Louder Sound that after the accident, Moon had become deeply unhappy, recalling, "He said a lot of times, 'I don't deserve to live. I'm a murderous screaming and wailing in the middle of the night. You'd have to comfort him and give him lots of Placidyls to make him go back to sleep." She's been candid, too, about the fact that the life of a groupie isn't all glitz, glamour, and limousines. Toward the end of her memoir, she wrote of the friends she'd lost, a beloved companion and confidant named Beverly to a heroin overdose. Rock gods she'd considered friends included Keith Moon, Jimi Hendrix, Mama Cass, and Graham Parsons. She wrote about almost ruining her own health, worrying about others, saying that in the end she'd come to a heartbreaking conclusion. There was nothing I could do. Some groupies were invited into the perfectly ordinary, everyday lives of the rock stars with whom they hit it off. In her memoir, I'm With the Band, Pamela Des Barres wrote about meeting Gail Zappa and being fascinated with the idea that even rock stars like Frank Zappa could have families, drink tea, and eat breakfast in their own kitchens. Gail offered her friend a job as nanny for their daughter Moon and son Dweezil. Remembering how she moved in with the Zappas in Laurel Canyon to take care of the kids, Des Barres wrote, "The love I felt for them was different from any other kind. I didn't want a single thing from those munchkins, and it was a refreshing relief. I hung out with them because I had to, but found out real soon that I also wanted to." Morgana Welch has also spoken about the ordinary side of being a groupie. Speaking with Please Kill Me, she said groupies' contributions to the music scene were never appreciated. She recounted cooking for countless bands, saying, "I had certain recipes like these massive stir-fries where I could feed the band and the roadies for $5. They were always so grateful because they were broke and starving. So in a way, a lot of groupies were doing things to help these guys stay alive while they did their music." Being a groupie in the 1970s meant trying to get noticed by one's rock star of choice, which meant getting creative with fashion. Morgana Welch explained to Please Kill Me that our art was fashion, ambient art. Thrift stores were a groupie's go-to as it allowed them to piece together outfits with complete control and no limit to creativity. Pamela.
Now let me pause it right here. I want y'all to pick up on something, how they're describing this, because let's be clear. I'm going to say it one more time because I love to piss off the people that like to defend this type of degeneracy. These are pedophiles, every last one of them. You dealing with 14 and 15-year-olds, yes, your nasty, raggedy ass is a pedophile. But see, notice how they know this history, but you don't hear them going after them today to prosecute them. Okay, now a handful of them have, but in large numbers. Notice that, and then notice the media that does know about all these things that I'm going to show you here tonight. Notice they revere a lot of these people. Oh yeah, see, this goes to show you that when it's them, oh yeah, they put these child predators on a pedestal. But see, here's the bad part about it. When you start looking at the ones that idolize them, like the Sean Combs and the rest of them, they want to actually be and get away with the same things that they got away with. See, you got to understand something. One of the bad things about our community, we'll look at a person because they have a certain talent or we like that talent that they do as an athlete or entertainer, but then we uncover something horrible about them. We don't know how to throw their asses in the trash can. Look, I want everybody to have their fair day in court, but if it comes out that you did some egregious stuff, especially anything with some kids or any type of horrific thing where you forcing yourself on somebody, I listen, it's easy for me. I'm like, nope, because I do not consider people like that brothers or sisters in the community. You become a threat to the damn community. And see, as far as men go, this is the part I'm going to say, because this is the way I was raised. As far as men go, it is our primary responsibility to protect the community, protect our families, protect the community. You can't do that if you look the other way on somebody that's accused and proven to be have done some dirtbag shit that wants to be a predator amongst us. Nah, you can't protect the community and then look the other way on things like that at the same time. It's just not going to work. You're going to have to take one side or the other, okay? So that's my personal stance on it. And I just want to point out, just listen to how they talk about these people when they should be, if you know they did this, it's being admitted, they should be prosecuted. But see, we're in a system of white supremacy, so we know that's not going to happen with white folks. And when it comes to Bill Cosby and everybody else, oh yeah, here they all come, boy, 20, 30 years ago, oh, they're all coming. But see, when it comes to these guys, just notice it's not the same energy. Let it continue.
Barr spoke with Vogue about the groupie fashion sense, saying, "I just wanted to be understood by the way I looked." She recalled spending hours putting on makeup and decorating herself with sequins, saying, "I wanted to express myself along with all these people I admired so much." She added that part of what she did as a groupie was take fans shopping and even make them some of the clothes that ultimately shaped their style. At the forefront of that was Anita Pallenberg, who is widely credited with changing the entire look of the Rolling Stones as they stepped into the 1970s. Keith Richards even gave her a shout out in his memoir Life, saying, "I started to become a fashion icon for wearing my old lady's clothes." It's impossible to talk about what it was like to be a groupie in the 1970s without talking about Cameron Crowe's iconic Almost Famous. The film was based on his experiences as a music journalist at the time, but DeBar told Vulture that's its problem. She explained that being a groupie was all about feminism and the female agenda, and the fact that the movie is told from the perspective of a male journalist omits that whole side of it.
We are not groupies.
This is Penny Lane, man. Show some respect.
DeBar says, "The film is a horribly misogynistic look at what a groupie muse is. This character, the groupie like she's portrayed, is pathetic." DeBar takes particular issue with Penny Lane's suicide attempt, saying that no true groupie would have been so tied up in the idea of the man. Instead, she says it was always about the music. Among the problems DeBar had with Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous were the bus scenes. She explained, "I was a groupie before there were bus trips. I was on jets, but that was too cutesy and too clean for what really would have happened in that bus had I been on it." For many, touring with the band meant getting a ride on the Boeing 720B, dubbed Starship One. The jet was first chartered by Led Zeppelin in 1973, and it retired just 4 years later after hosting Peter Frampton. Those years in between, though, it saw a lot. The general vibe of the plane could be summed up by the image of band names spelled out on the bar in lines of cocaine, and a bedroom complete with a well-used waterbed. When Alice Cooper leased the plane, nightly activities would be recounted in the form of ball scores. Deep Purple chartered the plane too, and according to what manager Bruce Payne saw, it was one of the band's go-to methods for courting groupies. Payne said, "Fathers 2 states over were calling the cops. Parties went on 24/7 no matter what the city, and drummer Ian Pace of Deep Purple loved every minute, remembering, 'The Starship was a great place to join the Mile High Club.'" Pamela DeBar told Fashion that she's been on a quest to take back the word groupie from anyone who might use it to paint a picture of one-dimensional sex-obsessed women throwing themselves at rock stars. And even though DeBar might condemn...
Now, let me pause it right there because, see, this is very important. I hope you caught what the announcer was saying there, what the narrator was saying there. Notice how he was saying this helper wants to try to change basically the stigma around the word groupie. See, they always try to redefine words to mean something else. No, there is no positive connotation to the word groupie. There's none whatsoever, okay? None at all. And see, black fathers, where this comes back around to us, we have to make sure that we sit our daughters down and let them understand what the real deal is about being a damn groupie of any kind, whether you're chasing athletes, entertainers, musicians, whatever it is. You have sunk to the most low point of womanhood when you have to be reduced to being a damn groupie. There's nothing honorable about that because, see, like I said, I have family members that have worked security for a lot of high profile clients and I have helped them out and I know what I've seen. Let me tell you something. the wisest people that run their own security companies that work for some of these people, they'll turn down certain contracts to work for them if they know they're like, okay, anything you got going on, it's a bunch of kids around. No, it is not worth it. You do not want to be caught up in that. But see, here, let me go ahead and put this out here. Some of these people, they have no honor, okay? They can be paid to look the other way on something. See, let me put it here, right, before we get back into tonight's broadcast. The situation that's going around the net now, okay, and we covered it here on this channel, previous broadcast Factor Business. Imagine with all the stuff that Cassie alleged that Puffy did, okay, imagine you being the security and you standing outside the door and he just going to town. I'm talking about beating her from pillar to post. You hear her crying and screaming. Do you know what kind of low-life, soulless bastard you have to be? And for him to come out after he done that, you see what he did. And he said, hey, look, here's 50,000. Hey, keep your mouth shut. You didn't see nothing. See, some of us have consciences, and I don't ever do anything where I can't go to sleep in peace at night, okay? I know, no. So see, some people, they can literally be bought like that, okay? So I'm just putting the other side out there because, see, let me tell you something. If anybody gets to see a lot of this crazy shit that's going on, it's their security. And they make sure they paper them up to keep their mouths closed. But see, then the people that are in the business that have some integrity, they won't even work with certain clients, okay? A lot of people are always talking about what they would and wouldn't do for some money. But let me tell you something, man. I'm going to say it again. I've said it many times. There's not one dime in this world worth your reputation and your good conscience and ability to sleep at night. If you value having a intact relationship with the Most High, that it's just some things it's just not worth it. And it's some people that you don't want to put yourself in close proximity to. So that's what I just wanted to take the time to tell you about that. Because listen, boy, if y'all think that it's over with that Cassie Diddy situation, just mark my words. It ain't over yet. There's a lot more coming down the pipe with that situation. She might have gotten her bag, but I'm telling you now, that is not over. So we're going to go ahead and get back into the night's broadcast so that you can see where a lot of these influences come from, and a lot of these goofballs, they want to imitate this lifestyle and bring that degeneracy around our community, okay? So let's let it continue.
Almost famous as a shallow depiction of what their lives were like, it's not entirely wrong.
Don't you think you could be doing something else?
This is what I want to do. This is what I've always wanted to do.
Just sleep with rock stars?
And their crews.
In fact, Crow's film depicts precisely what DeBar has been saying. Penny Lane starts talking to the young journalist character inspired by Cameron Crowe and gets him access to the band. According to Dr. Paula Harper, a postdoctoral fellow in musicology at the University of Washington in St. Louis, that was...
Let me pause it real quick. So I want to address something in the chat to make sure that we all on the same page. And salute and welcome to everybody that's just joined us over here. My brother Unseen But Well Heard. Okay, I see the good brother Nightfall Drop. Nightfall Drop, my brother, I got to ask you a question, right? And I want you to be open and honest about this. Because I'm reading your comment. You said, my only issue is that as much as we denigrate the male performance, we skip past the truth that all these women offer themselves for the lifestyle. Now, brother, if you've been paying attention to my channel, when have I ever done that? I didn't do that in the last broadcast. What did I clearly say? I said neither one of them are innocent. Neither one of them. So I'm just saying, like, when you put something like that in the chat, make sure that you're clear on what you're saying, because I don't cut anybody a pass. Now, I want to deal with this other thing that you said here. Like you said you're just tired of these false narratives that these women are just put upon as victims when they got what they asked for. So here's the thing that I want you to understand, because this is very important for us as men. So I appreciate that comment, but I wanted to take time to deal with that here tonight. I always say that if we want to be men and leaders, we have to distinguish ourselves from those that are not worthy to be leaders. Now, what do I mean by that? We make distinctions between the grown women and the underage children. There's no such thing as a 14 or 15-year-old like we're talking about here tonight as being a willing participant or got what they wanted for. Anybody dealing with anybody underage like that is a goddamn pedophile. I hope we're on the same page about that, okay? Now, in Cassie's situation, yes, she was still a teenager, 19, but she was not that young to the point that she did not know what was going on, okay? So that's the part that you have to be careful about when you say things like that. And over here on my platform, I like to be clear. on like where I stand, so everybody knows where I stand. Now, other people, I can't speak for them, but like when it comes to these things like this, yes, we hold the grown women accountable, but you don't conflate ever the minors with the grown women. I'm not saying you did, but I just want to be clear on where I stand on that, especially when there's something in my chat room, because like a lot of times people will see something in a chat, and if it's not addressed the right way, or if it's not exactly correct according to what the broadcast is stating, then they'll come back and say, well, you agree with this, that, the third. So I like to be direct and clear on my statements, okay? Because I need to take the time to do that broadcast too. And again, I thank you for that comment, because unfortunately, we actually do have some men, a lot of them in these spaces. Do y'all know, and y'all probably know who they are, I don't need to name their names, but there are a lot of men that have platforms, some bigger than mine, some smaller, that actually think, now listen to how sick this is. A lot of them actually think that when a young girl gets a period, she's a woman. Let me tell you something. If we got any men talking like that, that's a predator. You got to watch that. Nah. There's no such thing as no girl because she gets her cycle. That turns her immediately into a woman. See, I'm telling you, some of these people are beyond sick. Yeah, I'm going to have to like take the time and really put that broadcast together. It's going to have to go on Patreon because some of this stuff, man. But yeah, I just want to make sure we're clear on everything with that. So make sure that when you over here come in, brother, address it to what I'm talking about. Don't put what other people talking about in the chat. Make sure you stick to the topic of what I'm talking about, because I hold both grown parties accountable. I always make distinctions between that and children. That's very important that we use specific language when we address those things. So just wanted to take the time to point that out. That said, we're going to get back into analyzing where these influences come from with the dominant society. Let's continue.
Was pretty regularly a part of the groupie's life. Harper went on to explain that groupies knew all the places to be seen and who was going to be having the best parties. When out-of-town bands showed up for a few shows, it was the groupies who made connections. Harper goes as far as to suggest that not only were they acting as adept and experienced PR people, but that if their work had been carried out by a man, they would have gotten paid. Take Gail Zappa. She hadn't yet married her famous husband when she and her groupie friend traveled to California, taking the Who's My Generation to one radio station after another. She said that although it was all in fun, they ended up breaking the record into radio play, and that's the sort of thing people normally get paid for. DeBar believes that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the type of groupie who's just out to add notches to their bedpost, stating, "You're not hurting anyone. If that's what you want to do it."
Would wander around the backstage area, and then one thing would lead to another.
But here's the thing. Some of the wives and girlfriends of rock stars have spoken out about the harm that the groupie lifestyle has done to them. When DeBar interviewed groupie-turned-wife Gail Zappa for her book, Let's Spend the Night Together, Zappa confirmed that yes, her husband was a huge fan of the groupie sex scene even after they were married, and it absolutely bothered her. Zappa recalled, "Well, everyone had groupies. I mean, you couldn't get around them. There were aspects that were not easy and not fun, and it's not like you could be consoled or cry on his shoulder over it, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger."
Girls that will readily admit that they are groupies have a very special sort of mentality, you know, and they aspire to that position.
Franca Wright shared her heartbreaking story to the Daily Mail. Longtime wife of Pink Floyd keyboardist Rick Wright, she confronted her husband and his groupie of choice, only to learn that the groupie was expecting his child. The news came immediately on the heels of Franca's fourth miscarriage. Those miscarriages, she said, came because she flew along with him when he toured. Wright said, "If I wasn't there when he wanted me, then he would find another woman to put in his bed." According to Morgana Welch, she would go back to the days of free love and baby groupies in a heartbeat. It's an era that could never be replicated, and she explained that the reason for the change was twofold. After the AIDS crisis and the emergence of cocaine as a drug of choice, Welch says, "We went from expressing yourself to feeding the ego." She added that she had gotten clean, saying, "I don't want to be out of it, I want to be there for it." It's something that other groupies grew into feeling as well. Pamela DeBar told Big Issue that if she had any advice for her younger self, it would be to lay off the drugs, saying, "The early drugs were fine, pot and acid, mescaline and all. Then it sort of denigrated into cocaine and pills and stuff. I tell her to avoid some of that because there are things I don't remember because I was so high." In Rebel Heart, Bebe Buell also told some terrifying stories about drug use. In one, another groupie who was dating Alice Cooper at the time had given her elephant tranquilizers. She writes, "I called Todd Rundgren on the phone as I was starting to die." She told another story of swearing off heroin for life, writing that it was such a bad experience that she had no doubts that she was never going to touch it again.
So now you've heard some of what they were talking about there. So I want to touch on something that they had the musician, the Zappa guy, talking about, and he was talking about the mindset of a groupie, and that's what they aspire to. I want to double down on this again to make my position clear on it. I don't give a damn what an underage child wanted to do. As an adult, it's up to us to make sure that we do what's right and for the protection of that child, and to make sure we're not trying to engage in anything filthy like that. See, that's not an asset to a community. That's a predator to a community. Okay? That's different between what grown women do. All right? So that's the part we have to make sure that we're clear on. Because, like, when it comes to, like, the grown women that do that, okay, they made those decisions on their own. But there is no but whatsoever when it comes to young girls, because, see, that falls upon the parents making sure that they know where their children are and taking action to make sure that they protect them from that and not allow them to become a part of that, and make sure that, okay, if you find out that's going on, then that disgusting bag of dog shit, and that's what I call those pedophiles, needs to be prosecuted and dealt with. Because, see, that's one good thing I will say about foundational Black American culture. We don't have an open, keyword, we don't have an open pedophile culture. If it's done behind closed doors. One thing about it, you can't go to any foundational Black American community and ask where can you find a kid at. Oh, you try that if you want to, especially down in the South. We got some for that. But see, some of these other countries, unfortunately, you can just go walk up and ask where you can purchase a kid at to do whatever you're going to do. Okay, and that's the main reason why a lot of these white supremacists go flocking over to those nations. But I got this picture of this devil on the screen here because, again, I'm showing you where these influences come from and why they seek to idolize these people and mimic their behavior. See, basically, I'm just going to call it what it is. The people like this, okay, that you hear about doing all these things, especially over years, and it's not the only one or two instances. What it is with them, they want to be little dark-skinned versions of these white supremacist pedophiles. I'm just going to call them what they are. They actually want to emulate that behavior. And I've said it many times. I'm going to say it yet again. If I pick up on any man around me idolizing these people that's got all this stuff going on, I distance myself. Even if I don't know what you got going on, it's a problem to me if I just see you putting a lot of these other white men on pedestals like that. Case in point, when it comes to a lot of people, how they feel about Donald Trump, okay, yeah. Would Trump be a better president right now with all this stuff going on? Yes, he sure would, okay? And you know, over here in New Black Media, we tell you, vote for Black empowerment. We're neither liberal nor conservative over here. But the problem with just using Trump for an example, you got a lot of hot men, man, that look up to him as if he's some standard of manhood. I can't look at a white man as a standard of manhood. I'm going to tell you why. I was discussing this with my cousin the other day because we got more we're going to examine. But for me, when you compare what the foundational Black American man has been through in history versus them never having to be on a system of oppression, what have they really had to overcome in comparison to foundational Black American men and foundational Black American people? So for me, I could never look at somebody that's always got a system to back them to make things easy for them, and that has to rely upon the work of other people as my superior in masculinity or manhood. That's just the way I was raised. All of my heroes are Black. I'm just going to leave it at that. But we're going to get back to examining these influences, family, because, see, you want to know where a lot of this stuff comes from with the drug usage and all these things that they are accused of doing. I'm finna show you some more here tonight. There's a lot more to examine, and we finna get right into it.
14-year-old groupies, predatory managers, theft of a rock star corpse. The music industry of the 1970s was not for the faint of heart. In the fall of 1970, Janis Joplin was working on what would become her best-selling LP, Pearl. 4 years before, she had come to San Francisco and quickly evolved from a drifter into a prolific singer, too loud or brave to stay with her first band, Big Brother and the Holding Company. On October 4th, road manager John Cook went to check on Joplin after she failed to turn up to a meeting. Cook found her dead as a result of a heroin overdose. Less than a month before, Jimi Hendrix had also died of a drug overdose. The 1970s continued to be riddled with overdose deaths in the music world. On July 3, 1971, The Doors frontman Jim Morrison died in the bathtub of his Paris apartment, allegedly from heart failure. although many believe he accidentally overdosed on heroin. In 1977, Elvis Presley was found dead in his bathroom as well. An autopsy revealed that he had 14 drugs in his system at the time of his death. The Sex Pistols put the sex in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but their frontman Sid Vicious did much darker things too. Vicious's mother was a heroin addict and supplied him with the drug as well.
Like they were partners in whatever crime, the hell they were creating, whatever it was.
In 1977, as he was climbing the ranks of the music world, Vicious began a relationship with a groupie, Nancy Spungen.
I wanted to see something exciting.
Their relationship was tumultuous to say the least. They would burn each other's arms with cigarettes, drink and do drugs, and fight, often physically. It all culminated on October 12, 1978, when Spungen was found dead in the Chelsea Hotel with a stab wound to the stomach. When the police arrested Vicious on suspicion of murder, he said, "I did it because I'm a dirty dog." He then retracted his statement and went with another story. He claimed to have taken 30 Tuinal tablets, so he was fast asleep when Spungen died.
Where would you like to be?
Under the ground.
Vicious never recovered from Spungen's death. Spungen's mother remembers Vicious saying he'd lost the will to live. And on one occasion, he tried taking his own life by cutting his wrists. On February 2nd, 1979, Vicious died of a heroin overdose. He was 21. Although the truth of Spungen's death will never be known for certain, the famous couple's story is a dark lesson. When Cher met fellow musician Sonny Bono in 1963, she was 16 years old and he was 28. Cher's mother told Ladies' Home Journal that Bono was a father figure before he was a lover to Cher.
He seemed really to know so much about life that I just didn't know.
But the two became a...
Now, listen to what they're describing this situation here between Sonny Bono and Cher, okay? Now, she was 16 when she met this man. See, let me go ahead and say something, family. Again, their attitudes towards what money affords them, this is where it comes from, okay? So when you see people in our community that get to a certain level of status and success in the music industry, entertainment, athletes, whatever, when you see that behavior, I'm showing you where it comes from. I can't say that enough times tonight. Ask yourself this question. As a grown man, you've got millions of dollars, you got fame, status, all that. You can go anywhere on the planet and get a grown woman. You have to be sick from the beginning to want to deal with children, teenagers. I don't deal with anything teen. Let me tell you something. Lowest I would go dating, 25. If you 21, you got to be a hell of a 21-year-old, but 25 is low as I would go as far as entertaining you, as far as dating anybody, okay? But see, the men that want to do that, or the women in some cases, we can't leave them out, okay? Because it's both, but we're covering what we're dealing with here tonight. Here's the thing. Money only makes you more of what you really are. See, think about it. Once you attain a certain amount of wealth, it's just going to make you more of the type of person that you already are. So for a lot of these people, it affords them access to be able to prey on people's children. And not to mention when you add to the addition of it, the allure of fame and fortune and all of that a lot of these groupies that are starstruck have, if they haven't been taught right by their parents, okay, they know that, hey, it's easy to lure in victims, okay, because, hey, I've got this lifestyle, I got this persona, don't you want to be close to this? Not knowing, like I said in the last broadcast, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's going to be a price that you pay for that, because as a groupie, I'm going to say this in plain terms, when you come in the gate, they're already looking at you as a despicable thing, a piece of meat, and they're like, okay, you think you're going to partake in all of this for free? I got something for you. And you never know which one that you're dealing with, because, see, just like the Chad Wheeler situation, that chick that was talking to him, okay, you went and got you a Zaddy, great, you got Zaddy, but see, you didn't understand how Zaddy was looking at you. He almost killed that woman, and I don't celebrate that. I'm not happy that happened. I heard that he got, convicted or, of the charges that it should be attempted murder, because, hey, the man sat there, beat this woman down, then you stand over talking about you ain't dead yet. But see, we know Operation Protect the White Boy. Shout out to my good brother Torian Rain. That they get away with all kinds of things. So my point is this: I try to show people things, especially my younger audience, men and women, to get you to think before, keyword, before you find yourself in certain situations. Because see, no matter how good your parents are, they're not going to be with you 24/7. Okay. At some point, the values that they try to instill in you, you have to develop your own common sense and see how that applies to the world and have sense enough to say, hey, wait a minute, this is what mom and dad was telling me about. And then better than that, start looking at the people around you, my young black people that are listening to me. Start looking at the people around you, look at the stupid things they do and say, hey, you know what? I don't want no parts of that. You see what I'm saying? Because see, again, I got to say it again. Nobody's going to be with their kids 24/7. A lot of people, you ask parents about, okay, hey, do you think your kid would do this or that? Everybody like, oh, I know my kid would do that, but you're not with them 24/7. Okay. So I just want to thread the needle on that. We're going to get back to listening to how Sonny Bono and Sherry started up their little situation here, because again, notice they don't never call none of those people the pedophiles that they are. They hold them in high esteem. Let's get back to it.
Dark couple following their 1965 hit single, I Got You, Babe. By 1971, 2 years after getting married, they had their own variety show, The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. It was a hit, which the couple needed badly. By now, they had a child and money was tight after the failure of a movie project.
Let me take the time to pause something else here, because family, and apologies to the rest of the audience, but good brother DL, I think brother, okay? I'm not sure if I got that wrong, let me know. But I'm assuming brother, unless you tell me otherwise. I see you typed in my chat, you said Cassie settled in 24 hours after all of her explosive allegation and cries for justice. Cassie settled in 24 hours. If I remember correctly, you were in the last broadcast, right? I'm just trying to be clear on this, because like you saying that as if nobody here knows it, and you saying that as if I didn't cover that. So brother, I'm gonna ask you a question, because I do remember seeing your name in the last broadcast. You did catch the entire thing, didn't you? Because most of the people that are over here tonight, did y'all catch that last broadcast? Did we or did we not cover that at the very beginning of it? So my question to you, good brother, is what's the point of saying it in my chat room round as if we don't know that? Would you please enlighten us on that? I need to know. I'm asking the question. I want to hear what your reasoning for doing that was. Because like, if you paid attention to the broadcast, you would know that we covered that at the beginning of it. And everybody over here should know that by now. So what's the point? I'm going to give you time to answer. And look, I'm asking you to answer because, see, let me tell you something about my audience over here. I like to make sure that everybody over here, I have a very intelligent audience. And I really don't like people coming over that's behind the 8 ball on things or just saying stuff just to say it. Okay? You might be in the wrong space. So now you got a couple of seconds to go ahead and answer my question, because I'm asking you. You're free to chat over here, but you saying that as if we didn't cover it. Because you were saying some stuff trying to dispute me in the last broadcast. I definitely remember you from over there. So I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to count to 5. Okay? All right, there you go. Because see, when I asked you, okay, so you said, good evening, brother. My point is that we have listened to a decade of allegations against Diddy, and somebody wants to get him. Black people need to see proof, or we being used as tools. Okay, so apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me deal with this, okay? Now, I said this in the last broadcast, because see, again, you making me think that either you were just over there and you got cotton in your ears, or you might be one of these people that you put people up on pedestals. Nobody, that many people making all those claims against Puffy, not to mention some things that have come out that have been proven. Everybody ain't lying on that man. See, let me say this again here tonight before we continue this broadcast. I am not a person just because somebody is a black man or woman that I put them up on a pedestal and say they can do no wrong. I agree. We do need to see proof. But see, think about this. For the stuff that she's alleging, listen to all the names that's done come out. You got people coming out backing up what they're saying. I don't know if you've seen some of that. I should have put that in the last broadcast. All I'm saying is, fam, everybody's not lying on that man. Puffy ain't no victim. It's not one of them things, whoa, everybody out to get him. That's been too many people saying that, brother. There's some truth to it. You have to know that, okay? So I'm just saying, man, make sure you keep up with the audience over here, brother. We're not on the slow bus over here. I'm not saying you are, but a lot of stuff, what you saying, it seems like you coming at it from the standpoint of you want to defend him against all costs. We don't do that over here. Okay? We don't. We not gonna do that. Neither her or Puffy is innocent. I made that unequivocally clear. So if you're gonna rock out with this artist, brother, you got to keep up, man. Everybody's welcome. But if you got the cape on for him, I don't, because see, that's just one situation. Everybody over here has seen all the stuff he's been caught up with over the years. You just gonna overlook all of that, okay? Again, for everybody that wasn't in the last broadcast, we covered that. We know that she settled in 24 hours. I broke that down in withering detail how that was some bullshit. And if the man really did all that stuff that she's alleging, that's not protecting other women, because you would seek to prosecute him and get him off the streets. Okay? So I hope I cleared that up for you. Okay? I hope I cleared that up for you. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to take one last time to deal with this. All right? Because I got to get back to my broadcast. That's what my audience came here to hear. I'm listening to what you're saying. I see what you're saying. You said, I noticed a pattern of extremely wealthy black men being run through the mud in the media. It is not about an individual. Okay, you're right. You trying to say it's the system. Let me ask you something, man. Look at all the stuff that man done got into. Not just him, but anybody. We're not going to keep lumping in people that don't get into none of that, because some of his own artists, I mentioned Carl Thomas, Brian McKnight and the rest of them, everybody ain't getting into these same situations. You see what I'm saying? We're not going to sit here and just say, oh, we out to get him, and then just sweep it under the rug, okay? I hope you understand that. I hope you understand that. It's not just, oh, they coming after him because he's an extremely wealthy black man. Before I get back to this broadcast, let me ask you a common sense question. I want my audience to answer this. Do you really think that it's just because he's rich they coming after? Because he's not the only wealthy black man. Why don't you see all this kind of stuff coming out about everybody else? All right? Regardless of what stuff they get into, you don't see 50 Cent dealing with this. You don't see Jay-Z yet dealing with nothing. I'm talking about the exact same things. If it was just that, why don't they put that on every other black person, okay? Not to say that they can't, but the point that I'm making is you trying to come at it from the standpoint, oh, they just out to get him and ain't none of that true. Nah, brother, there's some truth to that. Yes, there is. There's just too many people saying that for a number of years. And just hold tight. You're going to see, because as time goes on, man, a lot more is going to come out about this. I'm telling y'all now, mark my words, this situation is not done. But that's the last I'm going to deal with that, brother. I just want you to understand, we don't put the cape on for people over here because we idolize their fan. That's not what we do. Get back to it.
But the show was selling a lie. In 2010, Cher told Vanity Fair that Bono was not a very good partner. She confessed, "I wouldn't have left him if he hadn't had such a tight grip. Such a tight grip."
She is being tart. She's being tart right now.
I'm not tart.
You are tart right now.
But Bono had double standards. He often cheated on his wife, and by 1973, he was living with another partner. Still, he and Cher endured a few more years of their toxic marriage for the sake of their show. They got divorced in 1975, and as expected, interest in their show quickly plummeted. Nowadays, Queen is known as one of the most prolific rock bands in history. But in 1975, despite having produced hits from the very beginning, they were broke. Drummer Roger Taylor commented to Far Out magazine that they could barely afford to buy new drumsticks. You see management running around in stretch limos and think, hang on, there's something not right here. Indeed, something wasn't right. Trident studio owner Norman Sheffield, who was Queen's manager at the time, was making a lot of money off Queen's tracks and finding ever more creative ways to get out of paying the band. When the reality of Sheffield's fraud dawned on Freddie Mercury, Queen left Trident Studios. Frustrated and bitter, Mercury wrote an exceptional song for the A Night at the Opera album called Death on Two Legs. Its lyrics are pretty obvious. "You've taken all my money and you want more, misguided old mule with your pig-headed rules." However, listeners didn't know who the song was about until Sheffield himself came out of the shadows and sued the band for defamation. A settlement was reached outside the court, but as a result of the lawsuit, Sheffield became the architect of his own demise. Everyone now knew him for what he was.
Now I'm pausing it right here for a reason, right? Because again, I'm showing you where some of these influences come from when you see people in our community start to emulate that behavior. You heard how they were describing how this artist here got cheated and played basically by his record executives that he was on the label with. So now, y'all already know where I'm going with this. Years and years of allegations and come out to be proven true, especially when dealing with the Locks, how Puffy was just screwing them over in their record contract. Everybody remember that famous interview where they was on the Breakfast Club and he called in and the Locks was calling them all kinds of cowards. Then you saw what Mace was talking about. Every time you turn around, you look at his artists, man, getting done dirty, all that right there. So see, like I said, to the brother, DL that was over here, man, nah, we know. And see, unfortunately, a lot of our people, man, just want to look the other way on things because you like somebody. Let me warn y'all about something right now. That is a very dangerous thing in Black society because I'm going to say something and whoever it offends is just going to have to offend you. I want to put this before my audience here tonight before we wrap up this broadcast. Too many of us in Black society are accustomed to thinking like children. We've been groomed to think that way as a collective, to be honest with you. When you look at politics, instead of us looking at policy and number, a lot of people start talking about who they like, who they don't like. It's the same for these goddamn athletes and entertainers. We look at because you like a person, no matter what they do, you just gonna sweep it on the rug and just throw the capes on. See, everybody over here in my audience understands the system of white supremacy. I've got content going back years talking about it. But one damn thing I don't do is turn a blind eye and just blanket everybody under that because that's very dangerous. When you say, oh, we just gonna try to say, well, it's just because you're a black man and not look at none of this stuff. Nah, man, no. And I'm gonna say it again. Any black man or woman thinking like that is not worthy of leadership in our community. You cannot be trusted. See, there's still some of us that integrity means something out here. I'm not going to just say, well, just lump them in with everybody else. No, we're going to have to look at this stuff that's being alleged that you did here, okay? And then when you start seeing patterns over and over, see, some of us still have our common sense intact. I know I do, okay? So I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to that. And I know most of us are, okay? So it's just, man, listen. Like I said, you see where this idea, this emulation of these types of things come from. It comes from the dominant society. They always look at the people, for example, the Leo Cohens and all the rest of them, the Jimmy Iovines, all of these people that get to a certain point, they looking at what they did and they want to try to emulate that same behavior. And that's unfortunate because the one thing that we should all do in our community with the straits that we're in, we should try to treat each other right, okay? See, there's no way if I was a record executive or anything like that, that I would be trying to get over on people, man. Like you said, you know, a lot of people have seen where Puffy had finally given some of them artists their publishing back after the publishing is worthless. Just years of dirty shit. That's why 50 Cent stay coming at him the way he do. See, everything ain't just made up. Oh, it's just the system. You got to be twice as gullible as it take to be gullible if you believe that, okay? And I'm going to posit this to everybody that's gathered here tonight before we get back to this broadcast. You better really start paying attention to the black men and women in our community that think that way. That just, oh, it's just the system coming to get them. Nah, so you ain't going to look at nothing else, huh? No, that makes us vulnerable because it lets the predators have cover when they should not. You ostracize the predators from our community once you know that's what they are. Okay, that's what wise people do. But hey, we're going to have to separate a lot going forward. And I love this time period that we're in here today because it's making it easy for people to have to take a stance on one side or the other. Let it continue.
If there's a contest for the worst band manager ever, Stan Pauly probably tops Norman Sheffield. In the mid to late 1960s, Badfinger, then as the Ivies, became the first band to be signed by Apple Studios after the Beatles.
When you become known as an associate of the Beatles, you're standing under a large shadow.
Paul McCartney particularly appreciated their style and took the band under his wing, to the extent that Badfinger became known as the new Fab Four. McCartney wrote Badfinger's Come and Get It. The song would reach number 4 in the United Kingdom after its release in 1970. But the United States was more enthusiastic about the band. Excited about their popularity in the US, Badfinger entrusted their finances to manager Stan Pauly. Pauly wasn't just greedy, he took all the band's money and left behind a contract that made it possible for them to make any more money without him. Tom Evans wrote the songs Hey Mr. Manager and Rock and Roll Contract to channel his frustrations. But on the morning of April 24th, 1975, frontman Pete Ham died by suicide. He had a pregnant wife and a new house that he couldn't afford. In his suicide note, he called out Paulie's wrongdoing. Indeed, after Ham's death, Paulie tried to cash in Ham's life insurance. 8 years later, Tom Evans also died by suicide after repeatedly saying he too wanted out. On September 18, 1970, Jimi Hendrix joined the 27 Club, the infamous list of musicians who died at the age of 27. The official story seemed quite clear. His girlfriend, Monica Danneman, had found him unresponsive in the morning after a night of overindulging in illegal substances. But the truth behind Hendrix's death is far murkier. In 1973,
now I'm gonna pause it right here, boy, because listen, man, that right there, I really hate that happened to our good brother Jimi Hendrix, because I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of guitarists today credit him for a lot of their work. That brother was a genius. You even had Prince giving him props. Okay, Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Number of white artists, they know where they got a lot of stuff from and try to put their own spin on it. Brother was a brilliant talent. But as you see here being explained, and you saw at the Becky up there, they introduce them to these drugs and stuff, and then the next thing you know, everything starts to go downhill. And I posit to you this. They send a lot of them there. You see what I'm saying? See, look, I'm just going to tell you like it is. It's going to offend a lot of people. When it comes to Becky, no. Not to saying that we don't have some women that don't do some underhanded things, but see, they know if you're the type of black person or black man or woman where getting some white chocolate is your weakness, here they come. And then they start trying to introduce all types of things to you. And then the outcome is usually very tragic. It makes me think back to Biggie Smalls. We're going to bring this back to Puffy again. Biggie was only 24 when he died, okay? And at the time, it's well known now, he was trying to get out of that contract and start his own thing, okay? It's well known. He was trying to leave, and then all of a sudden now, you end up in a situation. Now, there's a whole bunch that go into that. We all know that. And to answer my good brother, Unseen But Well Heard, I think Willis Martin was talking about Puffy and that vote or die campaign that he had going. Yeah, a lot of people probably missed that, but yeah, he on that Democratic plantation, okay? So I think that's what the brother meant, because I remember that as well. But see, when I think about, the brother Biggie Smalls being only 24, then we know Tupac died at 25. Just think of what they would both have been today if they were still with us, huh? Just think about it. Because see, look at all the people that we know of that are still with us that transition on and go into other things, especially when you think about Pac, man. And see, while we're speaking about that, even though that's old and that's in the past, I always like to bring this up when we talk about Biggie and Pac. As black men, no matter what it is we're going through, as long as it's not blood or money that we've been cost, okay, we should never let these people put us at odds against each other to the point where we're going at each other's throat, okay, especially if you're not some dirtbag, all right? That's one thing. If you're a dirtbag, the whole community should be on your damn head. But as far as like letting these people in a dominant society come in between us and we having a dispute, I'm going to tell you like my family always told me, whatever we got going on in this family, that's family business. You don't let people from extenuating parties come in and get in the middle of that, okay? Because see, a lot of that played out, you had people in extenuating parties, the dominant society, egging things on. Case in point, I'm going to name names, damn it. Every time I see that piece of shit, Vlad TV, he got these people that own there, especially the young ones that keep going on this platform that don't know no better. Vlad, okay, Adam 22. They always trying to stir up shit, and then the next thing you know, if they get the young, naive ones on there, in some cases the old, naive niggas, that's a damn shame. People that old don't understand what those bastards are about. But they'll go in there and say something, then the next thing you know, you got something that popped off in the streets because of something that was said on that damn podcast. See, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no reason for us to have to deal with a Vlad TV, Adam 22. We got talented brothers like my good brother, Dewan B here, Raheem Shabazz, that can conduct these same types of interviews. See, I've heard the argument, before we get back to this, that's been made that, okay, they got big platforms. Everybody know who they are. They got big platforms because we made them. We made those platforms. We did. if we pick someone that's respected in our community, like a Dwan B, yes, I'm gonna brag on my brother, or Raheem Shabazz, we could make them the same. And that way we would have that within our community, a community that we know that we care about people, and we're not gonna set them up trying to ask them crazy questions. Because that's one thing I can vouch for, since I know those brothers very well. If Dwan B was conducting an interview, or Raheem Shabazz, our good brother Tariq, they're not going to ask people no questions about no street business and be trying to stir up things just for clicks and views. Because, see, we look at them as family. They're our people. To Vlad and Adam and the rest of them, they don't care nothing about them as long as they get paid from things. And see, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, whether people like it or not. You can't tell me they're not working with them folks, man. Huh? You can't tell me they're not working with them folks. You don't think that a lot of these people set them up and it's like, yeah, see if you can get them to talk about this, that, the third. Because, see, here's a dirty secret before we get back into this. A lot of these record labels take out insurance policies on these artists. So they be hoping that they go back and forth and get in some type of beef and get killed. And see, here's another dirty little fact about them. A lot of times, their music and everything is worth more when the artist is dead. Do you understand me? See, this is why I wish that a lot of the OGs or whatever would get together and form, start moving away from like the corporate record labels and start their own where there's a hip hop union where you train these young ones what to look out for, how to do proper business and all of that. I mean, look, that's what I wish would happen. If I had the power to do that, that's something I would make happen, because we desperately need that. We need to be moving away from having them people in any of our business so we can avoid some of this stuff or minimize as much of it as possible. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. We're going to get back to analyzing this, and let's let it continue.
Hendrix's former manager, Mike Jeffrey, was chatting to roadie James Tappy Wright when he made a very disturbing confession, Wright remembered. As we were talking, Mike began to get very agitated and pale. "I had no bloody choice. I had to do it." You know exactly what I'm talking about. It was either that or I'd be broke or dead. Jeffrey then went on to say something along the lines of getting some nasty friends to pour, quote, booze down the windpipe. In an even creepier twist, Jeffrey was found dead a month after his confession. It turns out Jeffrey had ties to the mafia, to whom he owed money. Although his confession was never investigated or officially connected to Hendrix's death, it definitely adds another tragic layer to the rock star story. Singer-songwriter Graham Parsons died from a heroin overdose in September 1973. But the rock and roll life continued to haunt Parsons after his death in a very strange way. On September 20th, two drunk men wearing cowboy hats stole Parsons' corpse and drove it to Joshua Tree, California. These were Phil Kaufman, Parsons' manager, and an unnamed friend. As Kaufman confessed to Louder, he was en route to Continental Airlines at LAX, from where he would be shipped back to his stepfather in New Orleans. But Kaufman was adamant Parsons would not have wanted to be buried in Louisiana. A few months before he died, Parsons told Kaufman, "If I die, I want somebody to have a few beers, take me out to the desert, and burn my body." The two made a pact that night. They would make sure the other would get buried in the desert. So Kaufman drove Parsons' corpse to Joshua Tree and set his casket on fire. This earned him a fine of $300. As there was no law against stealing a corpse, Kaufman and his friend were only fined for stealing the casket. On March 15, 1979, the Stephen Stills Band and Elvis Costello were staying at the same Holiday Inn in Columbus, Ohio, after both of them played shows that night. At the bar, Costello got drunk and started picking on the members of the Stephen Stills Band. Eventually, the band left the bar, all except for backup singer Bonnie Bramlett. As she taunted Costello, he showed an even uglier side. He yelled out racial slurs against James Brown and Ray Charles. Soon enough, the two got into a brawl. After Bramlett went to the press, Costello offered an excuse.
I got to pause it because, see, you know, white supremacy always, boy, they don't like to take no ills. Nah, the two didn't get into a brawl. James Brown then whooped his ass. Just go ahead and say that. Come on now. Let me tell you something. James Brown wasn't nobody's punk, okay? Oh, no. The man wasn't perfect. None of us are, but he was nobody's punk. You can't make me believe that he didn't whoop that boy's ass as he started calling racial slurs, okay? He probably tap danced and moonwalked all over his ass. But yeah, you know I wasn't going to let him get away with that. Let's let it continue.
But not an apology. He said, It became necessary for me to outrage these people with the most offensive and obnoxious remarks I could muster to bring the argument to a swift conclusion and rid myself of their presence. Costello also claimed to be drunk and tired from touring, but that's hardly an excuse for being racist. Jackie Fuchs was 15 years old in 1975 when she was spotted in LA and invited to music entrepreneur Kim Fowley's apartment. Fowley was in the process of creating an all-female band, and he'd sent Rodney Bingenheimer to collect young, pretty women. This is how the Runaways were formed, but their manager was a man with an uncomfortable reputation. Fowley had a pattern of assault. That same year, he also assaulted an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. Sadly, he would focus his attention on Fuchs at a 1975 New Year's Eve party, held in a motel following a quasi-successful runaway show. Fuchs was force-fed Quaaludes and sexually assaulted by Fowley when she was too weak to fight him off. She recalled to the Huffington Post the moment she realized what was happening. "I remember opening my eyes. Kim Fowley was raping me, and there were people watching me."
My rape happened in front of so many witnesses, it's not a he said, she said.
None of Fuchs' bandmates addressed the situation afterward, so Fuchs felt that if she spoke up, no one would back up her story. "I was going to be the one that ended up on trial more than Kim. I carried the sense of shame and of thinking it was somehow my fault for decades." Sadly, the Runaway story isn't a standalone atrocity in the 1970s music industry. This was the decade when R. Dean Taylor released his song, Shadow, with the lyrics, "Body of a woman, mind of a child. Shadow, you sure do drive me wild. You're only 14 years old."
Did y'all hear that, family? Who the hell write a song about a damn 14-year-old? I don't care if it's during this era here in 2023 or back then in the 70s. Let's see, for me, that's zero tolerance for me, okay? Zero tolerance. No, man, you ain't got no business looking at no child in no type of sexual way, and you damn sure not gonna be discussing that around me. Nah, you can't be that type of dude to be around me. I'm telling you that right now. Nah. But see, just the idea that, listen how they talking about this, because this is history that they're recounting, and notice their names are not drugged through the mud. Nobody's calling them out for what they are. See, this is another thing, too, I want the family that's gathered here tonight to remember. When it comes to them always trying to point fingers at us, all you got to do is hit them with their history, the truth, because they know what the truth is about their people. This is why I cringe when you see a lot of these white celebrities adopting these little black children. We all see how that turn out. Every time you turn around, they got a little black boy, he in a dress. He chose that. No, children choose what gets them attention. You can't tell me, no, man, no. I was about to go somewhere, but this is YouTube. Y'all get the drift of what I'm saying, okay? And then when it comes to just the overall picture of it, every time you turn around, those kids get grown, or later on they start recounting how they were abused by these white celebrities and people that took them in, okay? So, yeah, man, like I said, this is just sick, though. You writing a song about a 14-year-old, man. What kind of men would be around you and entertain that as a good idea? But see, think about this, though. That song that he wrote, in order for it to get put out, that had to go to the chain of command on these record companies. What that tell you? Most of the people working at them, they're on the same thing. Let it continue.
Men having sex with underage groupies was so normalized at the time that no one batted an eyelid over lyrics such as Taylor's. Jimmy Page famously dated groupie Lori Maddox for a few years. Maddox was 14 years old when she met Page. He knew and tried to hide it. According to NPR, Page kept Maddox locked in his room at the Los Angeles Hyatt House Hotel, all too aware that he was committing statutory rape. And although the couple eventually became a common sight at Led Zeppelin's parties, Page was never held accountable for the relationship. Then there was Elvis Presley. Presley had a penchant for pursuing underage girls, and in 1959, he met 14-year-old Priscilla Presley. Following their divorce in 1973, Presley, now 38, went on to date another 14-year-old, Rika Smith. The 1970s music industry was full of criminals and other vicious characters. One of them was Paul Gadd, whose stage name was Gary Glitter. Gadd abused 3 young girls between 1975 and 1980.
They will take you away one day, won't they? They'll come and go, "This is it, Gary.
Do you reckon?
We're off."
Unfortunately, this was not discovered.
look at this weird bastard right here, man. Look at these people. Listen, he probably was coked out of his mind just then. Just look at the looks of some of these people that we reviewed over here in this broadcast tonight. You can tell they are off. I mean, some of you probably see folks that you know in the dominant society looking just like these people, man. They all have this crazy ass look about them. I'm just saying, I had to point that out. But anyway, man, look at this bastard, man.
Till 2012, following a UK investigation initiative after the Jimmy Savile scandal, Detective Chief Inspector Michael Orchard commented on Gadd's callousness, saying, Paul Gadd has shown himself to be a habitual sexual predator who took advantage of the star status afforded to him by targeting young girls who trusted him and were in awe of his fame. His lack of remorse and defense that the victims were lying makes his crimes all the more indefensible. In 2015, Gadd was convicted of 1 count of attempted rape, 4 counts of indecent assault, and 1 count of sexual intercourse with a girl under the age of 13. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison.
And there you have it, family. So I had to take the time to put this together tonight to show you where these influences come from. And this was recounting things that happened back in the 70s. Fast forward to now, it's only gotten worse, especially with the more money people have to cover up things and pay people off. And see, let me say this, when it comes to any type of situation like that, just as I covered on the previous broadcast, for those that had common sense enough to catch it and actually was in the broadcast listening to what was being discussed, it is a despicable thing for either a person around a situation where somebody's being abused or whatever, taken advantage of, for you to be able to be bought off and paid off. And it's despicable if you went through something like that and you're going to claim to wait 10 years and then you get a payoff, and to heal with other victims that are at fault. That are at risk there, rather. Okay. So that's my position on that. I put this together so that you can start to see where this is coming from, and you can start to look back at when you start to hear some of these names. Like I said, you'll probably hear some of the names mentioned by some of these people. You know where the influences are coming from. As Black men, especially, we have a duty to have zero tolerance on this type of crap in our community. And it doesn't matter what the reputation of the person is, how much money they have. If you got that going on, we have to quarantine you away from the rest of society if we're going to do our jobs properly as men, okay? And protect our families and our communities. So I hope that everybody got something from the broadcast here tonight. Thank you to everybody that contributed. And again, I want you all to have a safe holiday season. Take care of yourselves out here. Salute to you, Black First. And I will see you all in future content.
This is the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, and we still have a lot of discrepancies as far as the origins of hip-hop, a lot of claims, who did what, who was the first this, who was the this and that, and such. But at the end of the day, we need a definitive story, all right? And that story can only be told by the founders of this culture.
Like everything was being driven and influenced by young, Black, American culture, like the slang, the style of dress, the initial music that we chose.
Look at all the boroughs. You got, Money Making Manhattan and Money Earning Mount Vernon and Crooklyn. The Bronx was the boogie down Bronx. We was partying up there.
I am Coke LaRock, the first MC of hip hop. First cat to pick the mic up.
I introduced rapping to the turntable because when I came with it, nobody in the world was doing it. I'm right after Rudy Ray Moore.
They want to come in the mix, they want to say, we started. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. What came to be known as hip hop was solely an African-American creation.
What would you get out of some Jamaican toast? What is that? I've never heard of a rapper use a Jamaican toast or a Jamaican fleur as a rhyme. I never heard of it, and I don't know where that myth came from.
My name is legendary King Trixie from the Bronx, BX from the West Side. I am the first breakdancer.
That narrative that hip-hop has had 3 founding fathers, that's been rolling for the last almost 30 years, which isn't true. You don't have just 3 people who created hip-hop. Hip-hop was created by a number of different people.
I am the grandfather, the godfather of the graffiti culture. I am the first element of hip-hop.
the roots of hip hop being Jamaican, absolutely false.
My name is MC Shara. I am a founding member of the MC/rap culture.
Cassette tapes was the internet of our time. It just traveled around by hand.
I know for a fact that the B-boy stand started from the guards, the 5%ers that would be at the jams back in the days who were acting as security.
If they get the real truth of how it all was created, then so many lies would not be able to be in existence.
When we talk about hip hop and what it is, it's an extension of the music and the instrumentation that our forefathers created.
Check out the live stream premiere of the documentary short, It's Bigger Than Hip Hop, The Black American Family Tree, and Q&A, a fundraiser to create a series detailing music's evolution. Go to DewanB.com for streaming passes and crowdfunding.